The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the show. I'm David Pakman, and Lewis, I really couldn't be more thrilled that our audience is with us today. So much to talk about. We're actually going to talk, of course, I know our audience knows about what's been happening in Japan, and we're going to talk to Arjun Makhijani, who's president of the Institute for Energy and Environmental Research. We have been hearing so many conflicting stories, Lewis, about exactly what, is there nuclear fallout? Is there radiation? Could it reach the U.S.? He's going to tell us everything. Hopefully the truth even. He'll tell us a lot. And I'm hoping even most of it will be true.
We're looking for the truth. We don't always get it, but we're looking for it.
We'll also speak with David Morey, who says he has 5 strategies for progressives to win. And I'll tell you right now, I at least 2 of those strategies I think are completely bogus, and he's going completely the wrong way. So I will tell him, I will tell him, and we will see what he has to say, A lot of emails have been coming in, Lewis, about a couple of different things. Number one is about Lewis's hair. And I got an email from Kyle Biddle, among others. What did Lewis do to his hair? It looks terrible. Stop that. Go back to the old look. Lewis had his hair longer than ever. And then... I don't know. You just cut it. I thought you were going to keep it going.
I couldn't. It got too annoying. It was getting in the way. It had to go. But in about 6 months,
right,
it will be back to the way it was.
Well, that's good. And also people asking what on earth was going on with me last show, and that the whole thing seemed weird. We had an issue at the beginning of the show where, if you were watching live, that we had basically a complete technical breakdown here, and microphones didn't work, lights turned off, and we ended up starting the show 10 minutes late. Now, if you listen to the podcast, never would have known the difference. And I think it just had me kind of rattled, And plus, I don't usually talk about personal stuff on the show, but as you know, Lewis, certainly having a little bit of trouble with my girlfriend's situation, and, things may not be going well there. And as a result, I was probably off my game on Thursday. These, as Lewis knows more than anybody in this room, those situations can be pretty tough.
They can, but we're hoping that Dave gets back on track here and doesn't throw anybody off. So far, so good.
Thank you, Lewis. I appreciate that. Let's talk. There's so much to talk about, and I'm wasting time on Lewis's hair and the breakdown of my private life. So let's get into the Peter King hearings, okay? We talked last week about the Peter King hearings. I said they sounded like the Muslim Un-American House hearings, whatever. I don't even know what name I called them, but I think our audience got the point.
McCarthy.
They reminded me of the McCarthy hearings, and they continued to basically be a complete circus. Now, they led to something which I met with just not so much surprise, but maybe incredulity, which was an interview between Bill O'Reilly and one of the 2 Muslim members of Congress, Keith Ellison. And Bill O'Reilly tried to make a very specific comparison between what the hearings were and previous hearings in order to make the hearings seem not bad, I guess. Here's the comparison he made. I know most of our audience will realize right away why the comparison is completely bogus, but indulge me, allow me to tell you anyway.
I asked this question to Alan Colmes, and he couldn't answer it, so I'm hoping that you can. 1962, Robert Kennedy was the Attorney General of the United States, and they did a big exposition of organized crime centering on Italians in America. Now, at the same time, there were other crimes committed by other ethnicities, but the hearings and the focus was on the Mafia, Italian organized crime. I think this is just about the same thing in the sense that one ethnicity, one religion is being singled out for investigation. Absolutely right on that, okay?
No, you're wrong about that, Bill. I'm sorry. You're incorrect.
How is it wrong?
Well, it would be similar if an attorney general said, we're going to investigate Italians and radicalization or criminal acts among Italians.
Well, that's what Kennedy did.
No, that's not what he did. What he did is he said, we're going to investigate a specific criminal organization. And today,
that was made up of all Italians.
Wrong. That's not the point. The point is, if Peter King said we want to do an investigative hearing on Al-Qaeda, you would have no argument with me. I'd say absolutely go get him.
Exactly. So this continues, okay? The argument Keith Ellison is making is perfect. Now listen to what Bill O'Reilly throws in there.
Have recommendations
Maybe he
on
should
how you
have.
did it.
You know, if that's your
yeah, he
feeling,
should have.
maybe he should have
He should have.
targeted down and just do what I'm doing. We're going to investigate the jihad in America. All right, now look, Frank Gaffney.
Well-
You know Frank Gaffney? Do you know him and his group?
No, I'm not familiar with
Okay.
him.
All right. So why isn't he familiar with Frank Gaffney? Why is Bill O'Reilly bringing up Frank Gaffney? Let's take this in two parts first. Number one, it is not the same as investigating the Mafia, which may be heavily made up of Italians, and saying we are going to look at American Muslims as a group, because we already think that the American Muslim group itself is the problem. Mafia is one thing. The other issue is this. You see where the difference is, Lewis?
Of course.
It's completely different. But then to bring up Frank Gaffney, who is Frank Gaffney? Okay. Should we be going to Frank Gaffney when it comes to relations between races, when it comes to Muslims? We should not. Here's what Frank Gaffney has said. In 2003, Frank Gaffney called on the U.S. military to, quote, take out the Al Jazeera news network. Okay? That's nothing. That's nothing. October 2008, Frank Gaffney questioned whether Senator Barack Obama is a natural-born citizen of the U.S. and questioned his eligibility to be president. A birther. Bill O'Reilly is going on his show and saying, you know what, Keith Ellison, Muslim congressman in the United States House of Representatives elected, you should be looking up what a birther thinks. You should be taking lessons from a birther, Lewis. April of 2009, Gaffney appeared on television. He accused President Obama of using coded language to indicate that America would submit to Sharia law. Obama is talking in code to show he loves Sharia law, Lewis. This is the guy Bill O'Reilly wants Keith Ellison turning to.
This guy's brilliant.
June 9th, 2009. With Mr. Obama's unbelievably ballyhooed address in Cairo Thursday to what he calls the Muslim world, there is mounting evidence that the president not only identifies with Muslims, but actually may still be one himself. Very reasonable that if you're Keith Ellison, you should take Bill O'Reilly's suggestion to look into what Frank Gaffney has said. Okay, so this is what the Peter King hearings are leading to. Lovely, isn't it, Lewis?
I'm pretty sure Ellison had no intentions of taking any of Bill O'Reilly's advice or suggestions before coming onto the show.
I certainly hope not.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, by the way, when we're investigating American Muslims and bringing people in and doing the entire big show, the big charade, another isolated incident, because of course all right-wing terror, non-Muslim related incidents are isolated. There is no pattern. There is no necessity for a hearing.